Access Radio, the future of radio and podcast. No limit to what we do.
Access Radio, WIAX, the future of radio and podcast. No limit to what we do.
Janelle, celebrity vocal coach right here, and I am a part of Give It Life.
And ratchet,
and real extra ratchet, raunchy.
That'll be everywhere, like.
Yes.
Who we got coming up?
Other shops is upstairs, but we down here by also, man.
This nigga got hit to walk off the set. We leave that up to Rito.
Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation.
Hey! Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Phoenix Soul Podcast. I'm Yaz HURSTON, and you're listening to one of the best podcast show at, I would say, Access Radio, the future of radio and broadcast. There is no limit to what we can do. I'm Yaz HURSTON. You're listening to Phoenix Soul, conversation and clarity through communication and clarity through conversation. I don't know what's going on with me today, but clarity and connection. Thank you, Al. Al is like the best. Big shout out to the best engineer, my producer in the world. I produce a lot of different things, but I need producing, and want to give a big shout out to Al for that. Phoenix Soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Big shout out to TC Worldwide, TC Beats Productions, for being the entity that gave me my theme music. So if you heard that music coming in, that's my son, TC Worldwide, and be on the lookout for him because he's about to unload some really cool, crazy, fire, funky stuff that I'm sure that you all will like, and I will make sure that you all hear it, of course. So I am live and I am remote, and I don't know what's going on with my with my camera here, but I'm gonna try to stay really still because if I move, then it'll get really blurry. So let's work on it like that. Let's understand our role here. So if you wanted to call us, you could. And many people don't call us that often. They send a lot of messages. They text me. But I really want to encourage people moving forward to feel free to call us. And you can call us at 347-708-0216. That's 347. See, they even text me during the show. 708-0216. So alongside with my son creating music, my youngest son, so that son who did the music, he's 23. And he's TC, and he's an artist, and he also is into real estate. And he is also the tallest of my sons, but he's also like my ride or die and my rock. Both of my sons are, but I know I don't spend a lot of time talking about my oldest son That's because my oldest son is like that incognito guy, but when he represents, he represents. So, like I said, he's dope, and get ready to listen to more of his creations. But I also want to share that my youngest son turned 21 yesterday. Woo! So now I am a mother of two grown men. Does that mean you get kicked out? Does that mean you can't ask me for anything? No, that does not mean that. But what it does mean is that we've stood the test of time, and they made it. And it's a shame that you have to say that these days. But we've been able to be successful between now and for at least 21 years. So that doesn't mean, and that does not mean I'm going outside now that I'm going crazy because I'm empty nesting. What it does mean is that I just feel like an extra strength of accomplishment. I know he felt a big deal, but I felt like it was a big deal too for me, to be able to say that when I give birth to somebody, they lived outside of me, for 20 something years. That's a big deal because sometimes, we don't think about it like that. But yeah, they were able to survive and keep it going for that many years. Hopefully, in the next couple of shows, we'll have a doctor on to talk a little bit more about that connection, women having children, as well as other steps in women's lives. But lo and behold, I have an incredible, incredible guest with us today. Let me read a little bit about who he is. Let me just say I had an excellent, excellent time every time I go out with him. As far as meetings, we always have a wonderful time, and we're always productive. So, and I think we met like about 3-4 years ago. And when we saw each other again, it just never skipped a beat. And so it was my pleasure, and not even a question, if I should bring Jeff Garcia on this show. So just a little bit about who he is. Jeff Garcia is an accomplished entrepreneur with various business interests in New York City. He is the owner of Mon Amour Coffee and Wine in Kingsbridge and one in Yonkers, New York. Formerly co-owned Waiza Pizza. I'm sure you're going to correct me, Jeff, when you get on. A Washington Heights artisanal pizza shop. He is also the former owner of financial services company and Associated Hubs, which provide remittances and other services to the immigrant community. Jeffrey is currently the president of the New York State Latino Restaurant Bar and Lounge Association, helping the association get up and running, focused on bringing equity, equality, and inclusion to the industry. Jeffrey guided his membership through the unique challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and continues to fight for his members. COVID provided Jeffrey and his partners a chance to provide fresh cooked meals to thousands of seniors through a partnership with the New York City Department of Aging, DFTA, and then with Department of Sanitation under the Get Food program. Jeffrey sits on various advisory councils and commissions. He was appointed by Governor Hochul to the ABC Law Reform Commission. We're going to learn more about that. He was also named to the New York City Mayor's Small Business Advisory Commission. He is also part of the Small Business Services, SBS, Cannabis, New York City Advisory Council. And wow, that's a cool council. And was an ambassador for the New York State Governor's COVID-19 Neighborhood Outreach Program. Mr. Garcia is the co-founder of the Latino Cannabis Association and served as its first president. Jeffrey helped the association get up and running, focused on bringing equality and inclusion to the cannabis industry. Mr. Garcia is also retired as an NYPD first grade detective with a noteworthy career. He is married to Yahira Garcia and his 4 children, Brittany, Mia, Lourdes, and Maximiliano. Okay. So I think I've given you a little bit about how great and how dope and how fantastic Mr. Garcia, excuse me, Jeffrey is. But why not just bring him on so you can all meet him? Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Jeffrey Garcia. You like Earth, Wind, and Fire?
I like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I know you do. I figured you do. You and I went over all these different songs that we liked, and
There was that one song at
right. You really like that? You really like
it? Yes. I downloaded it as soon as you told me. I just can't remember the name.
I know it was Bet You Wouldn't Hurt Me.
Yes.
By Quincy Jones / Patty Austin. The album was The Dude.
Yes. I downloaded it.
You really like that?
Yes, I'll show you. I downloaded it.
Okay.
The moment, and I heard it all the way home that night.
Well, you needed to play a lot of music that night too, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you. So Jeffrey, I mean, what a resume.
Thank you for that introduction. You're so kind.
I just read what you gave me, bro. I just read what you gave me. First, let me get this right. Did I pronounce your wife's name correctly?
Yahira.
Or
Jahida. Yahira, Yahira is with the English twist. Jahida.
What does she like to be called?
Jahida.
Jahida?
Yes.
Okay, that's what's up. Fire name. Tell her we said what's up, and we love
someone like Jasmine, right? Something.
No, especially if it starts with Y. That's what I was about to say. Yasmin Yahida. I love that.
Got it. I will let her know.
Okay, that's what's up. So Jeff, we're going to take it back a little bit. Talk about, I was really impressed to see such a wide range of experiences that you have. You've served as a public servant, as well as you continue to be a servant, but in a nonprofit capacity. So that's pretty awesome. Continuously advocating for people's rights and protecting people's rights is probably something that you're not far from in understanding what to do and how to do it. So you representing all your various organizations, that must be pretty easy. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and where you, your background and your upbringing, and what made you go into the NYPD? Maybe we can start off with that.
Well, thank you, Yasmin, again, and really appreciate, the color you gave to my introduction. One thing is just reading, but the color and, how you've mentioned that every time we do get together, we do have a great time. And, we met a while ago, and then we kind of like went our own ways for a little bit. But then when we reunited, it almost felt like that first day that we got together again, and as of late, we've seen a lot of each other. We're working on numerous things together. So, really, really happy and really appreciate you. My name is Jeffrey Garcia, born and raised in Washington Heights. I am from Dominican descent. I was raised around the area of Dykeman Street.
Wow.
Single mom, didn't have, a lot. My father did the best he could, he was out working, doing his thing. My mom had to deal with me and my brother, as a single mom, trying to make things happen. We were public assistant, lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. And it was tough, and she was tough. She was very tough. I mean, it's what kept us in line. And growing up in the 70s and 80s, there's a lot of things that could have gone the other way, I grew up with a lot of guys that went the other way, that aren't here now, and all great folks. The community was awesome. Everybody, would hang out outside. But my mom knew that when that time hit, it was time to go upstairs. It was time to do homework. It was time to focus on the things that were important, right? If you wanna get ahead in life. And I appreciate it. My mom died in 2009. So young, she was diabetic. really didn't take care of her so much in terms of diets and stuff like that. She was a school teacher, my teacher's assistant at PS 28 in Washington Heights by Columbia Presbyterian.
Mhm.
The kids absolutely loved her there. Her peers loved her. She was really amazing. She just had that unique touch with kids, and she worked with kids with special needs. So that made her extra special, right? And then my brother went on to college. I went on to after high school, I went to college, but it just wasn't for me. And then from there, my dad was like, "Well, you're not going to go to college. He had retired to Dominican Republic, opened up a restaurant. I went, lived out there. But prior to leaving, I had taken the test to become a cop because, I saw numerous folks in my neighborhood become cops. My cousin, who was like a brother to me, always like a brother to me, became a police officer. And, I looked up to him. So I followed in those footsteps. Um, a lot of my friends who didn't still looked up to, that path, and we would still say what's up and show a lot of love. But I went to Dominican Republic. By the time I was out there around 6 months, I got a call that, I need to come back, that they're going to start my, process. So I came back, and then obviously you don't go in right away. It takes some time. And I got into retail. I worked at the Gap on 34th Street. I opened up that store as an assistant manager in that store, and that was my retail career. It's funny, I was making more money there than when I got into the police academy. So I thought about it before I left. I was like, damn, I'm gonna take like a $5,000 pay cut.
But yeah,
But
I think
career move wise,
everyone worked on 34th Street or that Gap at least once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So you opened that one up, huh?
yes, it's no longer there. It's no longer there. But that was their flagship store. Remember,
Right.
that store was huge.
Right.
I think it was 58,000 square feet. It was huge. Had 2 levels. It was
Wow.
amazing. And to open up that store during that time was really awesome. So I finally did get the call in 1994, and then left to the police academy.
Wow.
I became a transit cop, so I was in the police academy in Brooklyn,
Mhm.
Old Street. And that was, again, a very unique experience for me. It was amazing. I ended up graduating top 10% of my class there, so did really well and excelled. I was a assistant company sergeant, in my company. So and that was due to my managerial skills and dealing with people. So they put me in that position. Then I graduated the academy, and I went to go work in the Bronx in District 11. That train line, working 8 at night to 4 in the morning by yourself, mostly. Then eventually had to work citywide and was all over the city in the train system. And then when at that time the police departments weren't together. There was housing, transit, and city. And then in 1995 they all merged, and it became one department. And at that time, there was a lot of opportunities that came up for us. And then I decided to go into the Organized Crime Task Force, the OCCB, which actually no longer exists. And within there, I worked buy and bust and narcotics and things like that.
Mhm.
And during that time, there was a lot of problems around the war on drugs, right? But specifically with crack, cocaine, heroin, and those specifically. And I worked in the area of the Bronx mostly, but then eventually was sent citywide to do different types of cases. And while obviously we fast forward to now, and we see what the impacts of the war on drugs was, at that moment, it felt like something needed to get done because the streets were overtaken, and neighborhoods were overtaken, and buildings were overtaken. So you understood that you were doing a good thing, right? There were hardworking people that went to work every day, to and from work, and really didn't want to have to deal with what they saw in their vestibules and lobbies and things like that. And again, I remember coming home from work that night, and underneath my staircase on Academy Street, seeing all sorts of things happening, and obviously you're coming home, you don't want to deal with that, you just go upstairs. But the hardworking folks that are coming home from work at that time, do they really need to see that, right? Do they really need to deal with that? Do kids need to see that? So again, while we can look back now and say, how terrible it was at that time, it felt very necessary, right?
Well, let me just say that you being in the positions that you were in afforded the opportunities to work in communities where you might even have known some of the people in the neighborhood. If not, that must have been a change for you. I don't know what it's like being a police officer, Latino or Black. I don't know what that's like. I would imagine it's mixed. Talk to me a little bit about you making that decision, and then how how you were treated, or how you how your experience was, right? Being in NYPD.
Well, within the Latino community, and especially within our Dominican community, police officers are looked up to. Latinos and Dominicans are and I know sometimes you think, okay, really? But they especially the older folks are very about law and order, and like safety and law and order, and and again, while nobody likes abuse, nobody likes to see police officers abusing anyone or doing anything incorrectly, they do like law and order. So the acceptance for me was great in my community, even from friends that were on the other side doing other things. There was that mutual respect. Remember, my mom still lived in that neighborhood. A lot of the cats that I grew up with, would see her and show her a lot of love and take care of her for me. Make sure that she had a parking spot when she came home with her car. If she had groceries, they would help her upstairs. So there was a mutual respect. And many of them, one of the guys from my block who, him and his brother now, they passed away, due to the trade. I tried to help, I tried to tell them, listen, there's another way forward here. You can do something else, what else would you like to do? So, that's the type of relationship I had with many of the guys. And some of those guys now form part of the Latino Cannabis Association. Because there was that respect there. There was that, Jeff is one of the good guys. You know what I mean? Yeah, he went that route. Yeah, he's doing this, but he's one of the good guys. So I always felt very comfortable in doing what I do. And then within the police department, I was also a very, I would like to always say I was fair. I had to do my job, right? And I had to do it. But I always looked at things, understanding people's situations, and I still say this to this day, like as an undercover police officer and dealing with people, there were many of times I said, wow, this guy could be my boy, could be my friend if I wasn't in this space. You know what I mean? He's a good guy who's just in a bad situation, or was put in bad situations. And now there's no alternative. And until this day, I believe that is true, and my life and my brother's life could have gone that way very easily. Again, if it wasn't because of my mom.
Well, big shout out and, happy belated Mother's Day to all of our mothers here and in paradise. So you kind of knew a little bit about retail. You knew about the business of restaurants, and you knew various communities. What got you involved into the restaurant business?
Well, the restaurant business also comes. My family is a very entrepreneurial family. Not only here in New York, but in Dominican Republic. Very influential family, very business minded, focused family. And then that translated to here. My dad opened up his first bodega in the Bronx. He worked in bodegas, and he ended up having supermarkets. So had restaurants here back in the 70s on Columbus Avenue, when Columbus Avenue was all Latinos in the 70s. That was all, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans back in the days. Definitely not what it is now. And they had restaurants. My aunt and him had restaurants in that area. Excuse me. So a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, in my background. So upon retiring from the police department, I know that that's something I've always wanted to do. During my time in the police department, my cousin and I bought this business. It's a remittance business to basically doing remittances to the Dominican Republic and all of Latin America, right, all around the world. But basically, majority to the Dominican Republic. That was our base, and most of our stores were in primarily Dominican neighborhoods. And it was obviously serving these communities in getting money back home, right, to their families. You see that a lot in immigrant communities where they send money back home, to take care of their kids, their extended families. So we opened up that business, and we lasted with it about 18 years. And then during COVID, things went really bad, and we closed all our stores. And still maintain a presence in Dominican Republic on the payee side, the ones that actually pay the remittances that go from here to Dominican Republic. So, but that, again, that entrepreneurial spirit led me into the restaurant industry right after I retired, because, again, it's something I've always wanted to do. I had a space in Kingsbridge that I've had since 2006. That was one of our remittance stores. And a buddy of mine, one of my high school friends who I've known for 30 plus years, was like, dude, why don't we open up like a little wine bar there? Or a burger shop. The area was up and coming. We kind of saw the vision. And during that process, him and his partner at the time were like, you know what? That sounds great, but we've been going around like Brooklyn and other areas. Why don't we do coffee during the day? Because obviously, we pay rent all day long. Let's do coffee in the morning. That can probably get all our expenses paid. And then anything we do at night is extra. And that's exactly what we did. And that's what led to the concept Mon Amour Coffee and Wine, right? It's a Parisian style cafe, very beautiful in the Bronx, that is now run by my wife, Jahira. And she pretty much takes care of the day-to-day there. And that then led me into the Restaurant Association. A gentleman from the Queens and a lady from Queens, Elvis and Aurelia. I met them through other networks, and we sat down, and that's how this all got started, the Latino Restaurant Association. And we'd all bonded around one particular issue at the time, and it was hookah. Around 2016, where there was a hookah bill that was being introduced to make hookah illegal in restaurant, bar, and lounges. And we didn't think it was going to pass, right? We thought that, yeah, okay, it was a bill, but we don't think this will pass. But it eventually did. And then that created a really big problem and a really big gap in that industry, in the restaurant industry, because a lot of these restaurants depended on that, right? Yeah. You go to many restaurants, whether it's in Harlem, and I remember speaking to this young lady that owned Harlem Hookah, an amazing young woman, and her business depended on that, like wholeheartedly. So we coalesced around that. We began the association, and it was hard, and as you know, with the cannabis, so growing an association from the ground up is very hard. It takes a lot of work, right? And a lot of doubters, people saying, oh, yeah, what are you going to benefit from this? Oh, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, what are you doing? So there was a lot of naysayers. But we kept grinding. I think we stopped operations around 2017, 2018, around there, because, we just weren't getting the footing. But then somebody called me back up, Jeff, we got to start this back up. We got to do this again, because, we're just getting screwed right and left from many areas. And that's exactly what happened. we sat back down around 2018, mid 2019, around there, and then obviously it was perfect timing because that led us right into the pandemic as we were getting our feet off the ground again, and then the pandemic happened. And
Right.
there's more of a need than ever now for
Right.
restaurants, especially in our communities, to have a voice.
So in your need to organize and to probably make sure the voice that there's a voice for the restaurant that you work with. In addition, I'm sure there's some cost savings analysis that was done after a while. Why the need? And you best explain this. Why the need to have a Latino based restaurant, lounge, or bar association, as opposed to just regular?
Well, because there were those other regular ones existed, but they weren't for us. There was a National Restaurant Association. There was another New York State Restaurant Association. And even at that time, I think the New York City Hospitality Alliance already existed. But a lot of these associations, we really didn't know about. They weren't for us. I mean, it doesn't mean that if we approached them that we probably wouldn't be able to get in. That's not what I'm saying.
Of
But
course.
they weren't geared towards us. They weren't doing any outreach in our neighborhoods, So we understood that we needed to do outreach for our people, right? And there's so many restaurants. I mean, and restaurant workers are majority Latinos, right? So we understood that we had to have a voice, and that as we grew, we needed someone that can look out for our interests. There was also another thing that, caused a lot of issues around restaurants and nightlife. It was the police department. The police department started coming down a lot of nightlife establishments, whether it was in Washington Heights or in Brooklyn. At that point, it didn't matter if you were, a black-owned, nightlife establishment or Latino. They were coming down in our neighborhoods disproportionately to other neighborhoods. And we understood that there was a need for us to have this association. There were a lot of these march operations going on around the city, which is where the police with SLA and Department of Health, the fire department would just come in, turn on your lights in the middle of the night, in the middle of your, peak hours, and be like, okay, we're doing an inspection. Now, they're going to say that it had to do specifically because of bad behavior, 911 calls, 311 calls. And in some establishments, listen, maybe it was needed, but that wasn't the overwhelming feeling, right? It felt like it was something that was being done to disproportionately impact a lot of these businesses. So we coalesced around that too. And then given my experience with the police department, I was able to navigate that. And again, am I sympathetic to the police department in certain instances? Yes. But I also understand, again, that there are cops that are just a little overzealous, that, just want to be too much out there and are not willing to listen and understand the neighborhoods they work in. So I think that we've been very helpful.
What role did you play? So what role did you play, given that you had a background in law enforcement, when it came to situations such as that? How do you see your role benefited the overall process situation?
Well, I used the fact that I had an excellent career, right? I was well respected within the ranks. I knew a lot of people in the higher ranks, going all the way up to the police commissioner, but knew people along the ranks. And I was able to call people and ask them to listen and, and understand a particular restaurant or nightlife or something. Okay, what's going on there? How can we mitigate issues so that I understand, so that you don't have issues? Because listen, the last thing these precinct commanders want is problems in their precinct, right? Because they have to deal with the community and the community boards and all these other things. And I understand that. And again, that's why I think I look at both sides and say, wait a minute, how can we both work together here to fix this? And I think that's where I came in, or I still come in very helpful here. And is being able to understand the nightlife establishment and what their needs are, while
Mhm.
understanding what the police department needs are, and how do we work together.
Oh, wow. So fast forward, because we now involved in a situation where something for so long had been deemed illegal by government, law enforcement agencies, so forth. Um, you got involved and was interested in this plant, and that was on you. But along with you getting involved, you found a need also to form another coalition. Tell me a little bit about your introduction to cannabis.
Well, my introduction to cannabis comes since I was a kid, right? And growing up on Dykeman, on Academy and Post, it was known as, weed capital of New York City, of the world. I mean, I remember seeing cars from Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, like from all over the place, going through my block to pick up, weed. Um, Again, fast forward to now, my brother was a big consumer of weed. Him and I had many fights throughout the years because, we'd be traveling to Vermont or any other state, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna drive with you, but I'm gonna take my weed." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're not gonna drive that with my car, you know, like, I ain't risking my career over this shit,
Right.
because at the time it was illegal."
Right. No, right.
And I
And getting stopped is not good.
Yeah, and sometimes state police or other states aren't always going to be as friendly, right? So the last thing I want is an issue, and that would have been really bad for my career. So we always got into it, and now we talk about that, and he's like, "Oh, look at you now," But the
Right.
thing I digress back to is that it was illegal at the time,
Right.
and I couldn't control the legality or illegality of it, right? Did I understand that it was bullshit? Yes, but it was what it was, right? It was the law, right? And it was my job to do. However, there's a lot that people don't know, when it comes to cannabis. And this is something, being an undercover, being in the narcotics division at one time, like, you were frowned upon if you bought weed, as an undercover, because it looked like you were whack. Like, your job was to buy. It was a lot more difficult.
The big stuff. Right?
Yeah, to buy crack and heroin and cocaine than it was to buy weed. So it was kind of frowned upon. I'm not going to say it didn't happen. I'm not going to say it never happened, but it was frowned upon. Very different from, I guess, uniform cops and people and those guys doing car stops and people smoking in a car or smelling weed and things like that. But when it came to the type of work that we did, unless it was like a large amount, it was frowned upon. It was something that they wanted you to do. They did. And it was because the big difference was those were misdemeanor arrests, and the crack cocaine and heroin buys were felonies, right? So, and it was about getting these guys off the street. So, when I tell people that, I'm like, yeah, all right, so why did so many people get arrested? Well, because, it wasn't that it was legal. It was just something that in that division we didn't really focus on. So that's an interesting point when it comes to that. And another thing that I learned, and I told a lot of people about, and even though, yes, we do see now with the card applicants that there are people that had convictions, but not a lot of people had like straight up marijuana convictions during those times, because a lot of those things were pled out. Whether it was ACD, whether it was to trespass or a lesser charge, and obviously that's why they had to make those changes when they did it, and when they did the card program, because if not, they probably wouldn't have found
Anybody.
even 100 people
Right.
do a weed conviction,
Right.
especially here in New York.
Right. So when you were introduced or you made the full circle, I guess, to this, that you started an organization. Did you start a company?
It was a 501c4
Oh, I mean, did you start
nonprofit.
no, but did you start a for-profit first? Did you have any
No,
interest?
no, 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 no. The
No,
everything that we did with the LCA was coming from a nonprofit,
nonprofit.
and then involving a lot of the same business owners that were in the Latino Restaurant Association.
Oh,
Because as I started talking about acted at one time, these were folks that at one time were impacted by the war on drugs, directly or indirectly, right? And I didn't know this, right? Some of them I know about, but I didn't know this. So I went to the folks and said, listen, cannabis is now legal. You can qualify for these licenses based on your impacted story. And this was before card came out and all that.
that's
It
right.
was you
Just
can
talking about it. Yeah.
and understanding the MRTA, we understood that having business experience was going to be a big part of this.
That's right.
So we put those two together, business experience, people that were impacted. Why don't we start forming an association and looking to see how you guys can get into the legal market, right? And that's how the whole association.
How were you received when you were spreading that message?
Initially, I didn't get a lot of drawback. But then as we started growing, as we started coming out more, as I started coming out more, as I started using a lot of my resources that I had from the Restaurant Association, yes, things got very difficult. Obviously, former law enforcement, not understanding my whole story, where I came from, that led to a situation with an activist group that not funny enough now, because you know what? I think that we've developed a mutual respect, and I'm still learning. I get on calls with them frequently, once or twice a week. Prior to coming on the show, I was on a call with them. Okay. But there's a young lady, Pilar from Harlem, which I think know.
I know Pilar.
Who came after me strong. And you know what? I can't blame her. At the end of the day, hindsight now, I can't blame her. I understand where she's coming from, and I understand how that can look. So, I've learned a lot from her. I have a lot of respect for her and the work that she's done to get cannabis and the legislation to where it is, her and others. There were numerous folks from the Washington Heights area, right, along with Pilar, that I had conversations with. And I've continued to run into issues and continue to, have to tell people what I'm doing, who I am. And that eventually led me having to step down as president from the association, even though I co-founded it. But I also understood that that's not what I want the association to be looked at. It should be looked at as an association that came out, with folks, because there were folks that were really impacted. We have members that did 5, 6, 7 years in jail, federal time for cannabis, that are part of our group, that I don't want them to be overshadowed because I was a former law enforcement. Their stories need to be heard. Their stories need to be heard. So
tell us. So first of all, thank you for sharing this, and how thoughtful it was for you to let something go that you loved for the bigger picture. So thank you for that, and that should be acknowledged that you've done that. And it's not easy, as it wasn't easy for you being a police officer, and it wasn't easy for you to open up. Hell, it wasn't easy for you to open up the Gap. But it wasn't. It's your journey has never been something that's been taken lightly. I'm sure even going undercover, that was a lot. And so I don't need you to come on here and make excuses. You've done it. Your story tells your story, and your story shows that you are not afraid, that you're fearless, and you'll do whatever you need to do to make sure that your community is heard, even step down. So thank you for that. Tell us a little bit about the LCA, the Latino Cannabis Association. What's your mission?
Well, again, a nonprofit
Mhm.
with numerous things in mind, right? We, again, started it because these were entrepreneurs who at one time were either impacted directly or indirectly. One of the main things that we did at the LCA is that the first core members, the first 25 core members, um, are going to be doing numerous things, right? Uh, as the overall licensing, because none of us qualified for the card application, none of us qualified for the conditional cultivator licenses or anything like that. So even though, again, there were people that were impacted, in some of those cases, there was a federal case. So federal was not included in this state regulation, right? Because this was about the state righting the wrong, not the federal government.
Correct.
So those folks right now, as we know, we are in that common period again for the overall rules and regs to finalize. So those folks are going to be ready, hopefully in a few months, to apply for regular licenses, right?
Hopefully,
And
yeah.
hopefully, right? And as those folks get licenses, there's two things that core group is going to be doing. And our mission was about giving back to community, right? Trying to keep the money within our communities through the ancillary businesses, given the fact that, again, the majority of our members are business owners, using those resources, those architects, those lawyers, those contractors, telling them, come on board, become MWBE qualified, so that then you could use those same resources that you did in restaurants, you could translate them now into opening up cannabis stores.
How? Go ahead.
And you don't have to touch the plant. These are all non-plant touching things that they could be doing and helping the industry and helping the community and keeping the money within our community.
That's an excellent point. Keeping the money in your community. Excellent. How would you say are the skills transferable in this whole process that you're going through from the restaurant business industry to now this emerging industry?
Excuse me. Well, many. And obviously, opening up a business in New York is not easy. Dealing with landlords, dealing with the city, Department of Buildings, Department of Health, Department of Sanitation, whatever it is that you have to do, all the licensing, DCWP, which is Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. There's so many layers, so many barriers that someone opening up a business in New York has to deal with. And one of the things, just to do a quick plug for our mayor, right, and the job that he's done, is that he's trying to make that process easier, right? And that's where I come in with that Business Advisory Council. That's what we're trying to do. They're trying to create a portal so that anybody opening up a business in New York has a one-stop shop portal to do that. So when it comes to cannabis and let's say a restaurant or nightlife establishment, is that nightlife establishments are also a highly regulated licensure, right? For you to get a liquor license, you need to go through a lot of the same processes that you deal with in cannabis, right? As a matter of fact, a lot of the rules and regulations and the law was born out of the ABC laws. So there's a lot of synergies there in terms of what that is like. So again, that was one of the reasons that we understood that our members would do well, can fast track themselves into licensure because of that experience and because of that already being in another regulated industry. So that's what we understood. But to digress again back about the LCA and that core membership, it's about giving back. And every licensee in the LCA, once they get their license and becomes operational and starts becoming profitable, has made a commitment to give back 1% of their net profits back to programs for their communities, whether it's for a community grants program or legal services to help people with expungements or help with folks or families who are incarcerated because of cannabis. So that's one of the commitments that the LCA is going to be doing as they get licenses and become operational.
So it seems that a lot of licenses has been distributed already for card applicants, those that were formerly incarcerated, and we're seeing um, we're seeing that happen, and I think that's a good thing. Tell us a little bit about, because everybody claims they want this to happen, but when it comes to your community, and also big shout out to Rafael Toribio he said good interview. I don't know if you know him.
That's my compadre. He's a member of the LCA and also my compadre.
Okay, and also Sandra.
Sandra's our vice president. Not only is
Sandra
Sandra the vice president of the Latino Cannabis Association, she's also vice president of the Latino Restaurant Bar and Lodge Association.
Okay, so you all.
And a successful entrepreneur from Washington Heights, grew up on Post Avenue. Female entrepreneur, has had a restaurant for over 20 years on Dykeman when nobody wanted to be on Dykeman 20 years ago. Her and a group of folks that are there now that have been there decided to put their money where their mouth is and open up.
Well, Jackie, if Sandra's still on there, just make sure she puts the restaurant or the website.
Il Sole Restaurant.
All right, she should put it in.
Two of the restaurants that are on Dykeman there are members of ours. The Mama Sushi, Mama Juana group.
Wow.
Are licensee members that are going to be going for a license. And Il Sole, Sandra Jacques.
Okay.
So,
Good job.
Yes.
Good job on that. So I guess the question was, I know for a fact when I had to share that this was coming in the Black community, it was somewhat met with
apprehension.
Apprehension is a good word. And I think your community, the Latino community, is worse.
The same or worse. Yeah.
I think it's a little worse. So tell me a little bit about your experiences, because it's not even about you being a law enforcement agent. It's just people realizing this is really happening. So tell me about that.
Absolutely. And I think that, and probably the same in the Black community, is the older folks, and that's why education is so important.
Conservatism is
yes. And still that 60-year-old grandmother does not understand that the guy selling in the street is legal now. Like, that's cool.
70-year-old grandmother.
Or 70. Yeah. And then that a dispensary is going to open up legally right down the block from them.
No, it's very hard for them to grasp that.
But why we need to do a better job there, not just the community, but the elected officials, is because those are the folks who vote. And at the end of the day, those are the folks who have the power with the elected officials, is the ones who vote. And I think that that's why we need to educate them, and/or also we need to educate the young folks to go out and vote as well, because that's the only way to create change, right? And especially in this industry.
So tell me a little bit about, right? So just tell me a little bit about, like, why or where you found apprehension, and maybe you made a breakthrough.
Well, and being out there in Telemundo, in Univision, a lot of that older Latino community has seen me speak out on this. Remember, and then a lot of them know me from the restaurants. So now they're hearing me talk about cannabis. And I think this is a word I use often. You have to have trusted messengers to put this message out, right? I believe I am. I believe that I've spoken to many of these folks on a one-on-one basis. We did one community event up in Washington Heights. We're looking to do more, right? But I think that that's what needs to happen, is that we need to communicate. Trusted messengers need to come out and say, you know what? This is what legal cannabis will look like. It's not going to be what you've seen all your life. It's not going to be that under the staircase, in your building, hiding. That's not what we want. this is how it's going to look like. It's actually going to be better. It'll, now kids won't have access to it the way they did, 20 years ago, because you have to be 21 and older. I think they need to know this. They need to understand this.
You and I think we both characterized, we were at an event a couple of evenings ago, and we were talking to somebody who had felt like, wow, like, is this real? And I think we both kind of said it is real, but the term that we've all been hearing, and I think we all have used, is it's like building the airplane while it's flying.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about what that means and how that has impacted your relationships with the applicants as well as in government.
Well, building the plane as we fly it means just that, because everybody's doing that. Government is doing that, because even though it's been around for some time, right? From Colorado to California, nobody has done it like New York. Nobody has tried to do it as well as New York is trying to do it. Nobody has done it with social equity in mind the way New York has done it. So that's been difficult. It's been challenging, right? Because in other states they just opened up and and it's a free for all, right? And we all see how successful, unsuccessful that's been, right? Because again, the people that were most harmed aren't the ones benefiting from this. And that's what we're trying to make sure happens here, right? Is that the people that were most harmed benefit from this. And are we getting it all right? No. Is there work to be done? Yes. I was on a call earlier. I know you just had him on. We believe wholeheartedly in Chris Alexander, the executive director. He is a hardworking man. He really has his heart in the right place and wants this to do well. I know in every conversation I've had with the chairwoman, right? She is well. And I just think that, again, the OCM as a whole just needs to come out more, talk more about what they're doing, be more transparent, talk to the community, have trusted messengers out there talking to the community. Another person I think is doing an amazing job, and she's amazing in her own right, is our own cannabis czar here in the city, right? The founding director, Sheila Dawson, an amazing and knowledgeable person in the industry. And I think she's another one that, people listen to her and you're like, okay, I got this. All right, this is not that, it's this. So I think that's what we need more of. Just more trusted messengers out there to help continue building this plane.
So recently there were a few more applicants that's come out. There's also growers that are that have been grandfathered, and now there's an opportunity for for more applicants to come out. But the main question that people are asking, Jeff, and maybe you have the answer to this, is where's the money? Where is the money?
If I had the answer to that, I'd have a lot more money.
You have a lot more money? Okay. Well, I know you as a business person, and then you working with small businesses, you know how critical that is. Tell us a little bit about how critical capital is going to be needed for your applicants or your members who can get involved.
Well, again, what I'm about to say here, I hope it's not taken out of context, taken the wrong way, whether it's to the OCM.
I'll give you an opportunity to explain yourself. Don't worry. Go ahead.
I just think they're protecting social equity so much that they're putting way too many barriers that there are going to be unintended consequences. And what is that going to be? Is that if the state doesn't get the money, and then they can't get money out there in the street because they're protecting them so much, then that's another way to not have social equity involved. Because, like I've said, once the regular applications open, white people will be able to get licenses too. Other than black and brown folks, they will be able to apply. They will be able to follow the rules and check all the boxes they need to check and get licenses too. And you know what that's going to come with? That's going to come with resources. That's going to come with financial resources. That's going to come with real estate. They're going to come prepared because all they've been doing is sitting and waiting. And because the state doesn't have the money, and they've created so many barriers of entry for people with money to come in, and even social equity people, because we know black and brown people have money too.
Absolutely.
But if
especially the ones that was incarcerated.
That too.
Yeah.
It could be a way to see how those folks and their money can be brought in. But now I'm talking about people. I'm talking about people in the business community.
Sure.
Who have money, right? Like, you have, yes, has been a successful business owner. You have a few $1 million and you want to invest in your community. Why wouldn't you be able to invest in a cultivator, a processor, a couple of dispensary guys? It doesn't mean that you're going to go and take their business away. It doesn't, because I think that that's what you have to create the guardrails, but not the barriers.
The predatory process versus just real sincere business
Absolutely.
investment.
Again, I think that you have to create the guardrails without creating barriers.
Well, this is interesting. I love that analogy. And this is a paranoid industry, right? And it's paranoid all over. It's paranoid when it was illegal. It was paranoid. We was telling everybody like, no, this can't be true. Like people did not believe us when we were saying this is going to happen. And it's paranoid now. You finally get your business and everybody wants to keep it real and maintain their business numbers, but then don't want to, don't understand in order for them to be successful, they're going to have to receive dollars. So that the trust factor is just real. I'm sure that the LCA has been playing a role in how to address this trust. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we definitely understand that there are people with money out there that want to come into the market. How do we bring them into the market, right? In a way that they don't seem predatory, but they're protecting their money, right? And how do we get them in and get them diversified as well? Mm-hmm. And that's another barrier of entry, right? That, again, do I understand that the two-tier system is the best way to do this? Yes. But just because you invest in multiple licenses doesn't mean you're going to impact what those licenses are doing. And I think that that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you can create the guardrails, but don't make it a barrier. Make it okay that you have that you have that investor. Well, you clearly delineate what that investor can and cannot do. And unless it's clearly delineated what that investor is and isn't, then he would not or will be able to invest. And that's what I'm saying. That's where you create the guardrails without creating the barriers. And I think that that's what we need to start looking at and allowing some more money to get freed up in this industry. Because if not, the ones that are going to be hurt the most are social equity applicants. Because once you open up that overall licensure pathway, everybody will be able to apply. Everybody. And people with the most resources, with the least issues, will be the ones to first go to market. And that's what we need to be, is first to market. Obviously, we see now that the ROs are going to be able to get into the market a lot sooner than originally anticipated. Why? Because it seems like the state has to do things to generate this money now.
Well, you guys also got a whole bunch of weed that's been grown that hasn't been moved unless they've been really moving.
That's another issue that we're going to get into now, right? It's this bill, right? This crop bill that they need to find a fix for. That's another thing. Like and a group of advocates that we're talking, people, Canna Bronx, Pilar, and other folks. We understand that while they need to help out those farmers, right, who they told to go out there and grow weed because you're gonna have a place to sell it, and they don't have a place to sell it. Yes, we need to find a solution for them, whether it's giving them money to turn it into distillate, right, and then that can be turned into alternative forms of THC, whether it's gummies, vapes, or whatever. Yes, we agree with that. But we don't agree that those folks should be allowed to sell that now. That there should be a mechanism or a process in place where that product then gets to those conditional card applicants, right? Let them sell it, whether it's through pop-up shops, listen, I'm one that, you know what, they start giving them these products, many of our restaurant owners would probably let them use their restaurants as pop-up shops on their less busy days to go and set up shop. You know, there's another industry that said that I've spoken to a few that said that they will give up their locations. People that do taxes. Obviously, they close their businesses after April 15th, but pay rent all year round.
Seasonal.
They'll let them use those spaces, right, to do pop-up shops and be able to sell those products. So now you have the growers getting their product out, the card applicants getting this product, and now starting to generate revenue. And you know what the state should do instead of giving out free money? How about lowering the taxes for these for that group, right? Lowering the tax so they can be able to sell it faster, right? Still collect some tax, but you don't have to give out money, whether through grants or free money. You're letting people work and generate money. So there are different ways I think that they can work this out than just giving people money or, as many people say, bailing out white people or these white growers. I don't necessarily want to look at it that way.
I looked at it like there was some Black and Latino growers too. I mean, that's how I was.
But they're very few. You're talking about four, I think four.
Maybe about 4 or
Black
5
farmers and only one Latino farmer that we met. You know, so the overwhelming majority are not Black and brown folks. And now they were able to find some money to bail them out. But you have card applicants still waiting. You know, there's only been 8 stores opened up in the state. So, you know, that's the concern, is that, okay, how could you or how did you find this money for them, but not for us?
Did you have you visited any of the farms or any of the dispensaries yet that's been open?
I visited numerous dispensaries. I've visited various farms and Hempworth farms in just upstate New York, and others. And you know, it's amazing, you know, the work that they have done to get their product ready for these stores. Now, listen, you know, I'm not a heavy consumer like many, or into the culture like many, so I wouldn't be the best to tell you how good or bad.
No. I was just wondering if you've gone to them. The question that I was going to ask you from that, and that's good that you visited them. A lot of advocates don't know who they're advocating for, so that's good, right? Customer service seems to really be important here. I've been to a few, and I've noticed that the customer service part of it is real and very, 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 very good. Actually, I've gone to a few places, and I felt like, okay, they really know their product, and they're really happy to come to work every day, and they look, you know, good to see everybody. I mean, did you find that customer service did well here?
At the stores or in the farm, or both?
At either. I mean, I was really going to say the store.
I'm gonna tell you right now, the farm that I went to, Gail and her team up there, I thought were amazing. Very nice people. Really amazing work. And remember, these farmers weren't obviously, they just weren't cannabis farmers. They just started doing
they're farmers. They
were farmers. Like they were like, these folks were doing tomatoes and many other things that they were taking down to farmers markets. I know that she had a deal with Whole Foods and other supermarkets for their heirloom tomatoes. So this is what they did. This is what they do. They just didn't get into farming yesterday because of cannabis. So and then they transitioned into cannabis, via hemp, right? So, but they were amazing people. And then in terms of the stores that I visited, very knowledgeable, very knowledgeable, great presence, make you feel comfortable going in there to buy. Now, I visited probably more stores outside New York City, obviously because of the limitations on stores here. Like I visited stores in Boston, California, Tulsa, Oklahoma. I visited stores in Portland, and upstate, in the
Oregon.
Northeast.
Yeah, Oregon.
So, and again, love the experience of going to these stores. I think that people, the industry will really benefit from having great stores, and they're beautiful, beautiful.
Well, they are beautiful. Well, in closing, Jeff,
and now that we're talking about stores real quick, Jeff, I mean, I think we can't not talk about all these illegal shops, right? And how that is going to negatively impact, especially a lot of our card applicants, if something isn't done, right? Something real meaningful with teeth. Now, again, it may sound easy for me to say this because of law enforcement, and people say that it just it can just slide right out. But unless you do something with teeth, they're just going to keep growing and growing and growing. And I think one thing that people always say is that these weren't the legacy guys. I don't know one of the guys that I grew up with just go and open up a store and say, I want to, no,
and start selling
it in the street. They're still selling in the street. So who are these folks that are doing it?
Right.
The people that have taken advantage of this system of non-enforcement. Because it's not that it's legal, it's just non-enforcement. They've gotten adjusted to the non-enforcement of it, or as of late, right? And I think that that's unfortunate, because those are the stores that are going to most hurt the legal market. It won't be
it hurts.
It won't be the delivery guys. It won't be those guys are still going to have a place always.
Right.
It's going to be those stores, because it's that new person that doesn't know that's going to go into one of these smoke shops thinking it's legal.
You don't know what you're getting. It's not regulated.
Correct.
And they're not paying taxes that will eventually go back to the community.
Exactly. And, Pilar says that all the time. And I reference her a lot because she makes that great point. That money is not going back into these neighborhoods the way the MRTA said taxes are supposed to go back, right? 40% of these taxes supposed to go back to the neighborhood. That's not happening in these illegal shops.
No, it doesn't happen. And I've actually seen that it doesn't follow any regulations, such as like the state liquor authority. It's very attractive. It's no enforcement. A kid can go in, So I think to your point, maybe that's the next level of advocacy, if it hasn't been already, creating more pushback of illicit shops. But I just wanted to say, this, if folks are interested in joining you, how could they do that? Or if they're interested in what does it take to be a member, or do you have meetings or whatever at LCA?
Yeah,
or even at the restaurant, bar and lounge association?
Same thing. Go to our website at the cannabis, www.latinocannabis.org. And as for the next,
what is it again?
www.latinocannabis.org.
Mm-hmm.
And for the restaurants, it's New York State Latino Restaurant Bar and Lounge Association. And again, when it comes to the cannabis, you can reach out to us there. You can become a member there. We have weekly meetings, which actually we had weekly meetings for the last 2 years, like Zoom calls. Then we have mixers. Recently, because we're in that common period, we've switched it up to every 2 weeks. But then the board meets weekly to kind of, talk about things that are going on, talk about events. Tomorrow there's an event in Albany, Dominicans in Albany tomorrow. There are numerous events that were going on around the city. So we try and keep our members engaged, even though there was a lot. I mean, there was a lot going on, but there wasn't a lot going on over the last 2 years, right?
Right.
There was a lot of hurry up and wait, and I
There
think
was that.
that got a lot of members anxious and like,
Right.
okay, like what's going on? But we had to re-engage them now again. Like say, listen,
Yes.
you can't sleep on, you can't, just sit on your laurels now. You have to get ready because in a few months, it's going to be a firestorm. And you want to be one of the first applicants to go in, and we're trying to, implore on them the importance of that. So again, this is a lot of the same work that we do in the Restaurant Association. We're dealing with a lot of bills right now. We're dealing with containerized carting in the city. We're dealing with minimum wage. We're dealing with the outdoor dining that was just approved in New York City. So we're going to see how New York City's landscape is going to change from the sidewalk cafes and the open restaurants program. So a lot going on in both of these industries that we have a lot of work cut out for us.
Is that your children in the background?
Oh, yeah. Mia, come over here. This is Mia. Lulu. That's Mia Lulu. Mia just turned 9. Look at her. Come over here, Mia. Come on. Come on. That's Mia.
Hi.
Say hi.
Beautiful.
Say
Hi,
hola.
beautiful. Hola.
Hola. And Lulu this. Come over here, Lulu. Come over here. And then this is Lulu.
Hi,
Hey.
Lulu.
Lulu just turned 7 and Mia turned 9.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Maximiliano is running around somewhere over there.
Wow.
He's a little boy. He's the little boy of the house. Or the little man.
Little man?
Yes. He's the boss? Yeah. He's the boss.
Understood. I understand that.
Mwah.
Well, Jeff, I want you to go back and enjoy your family. Thank you for coming on Phoenix Soul Podcast. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Forward to working more with you, but just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing such a great job. We're extremely proud of you, and looking forward to hearing more and better things about you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, and we'll see each other soon.
Absolutely.
Ciao, everybody.
Jeff Garcia.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So
Ciao.
if you just tuned in, we had an incredible guest. We plan on doing our rebroadcast at 10:30. Great show as always. But got to keep pushing the fight. There's a lot of people that are here, as you see, people that are still pushing the fight for the voiceless. And being a voice for the voiceless is critical. It's important, especially in today's times. With that being said, I want you to enjoy this rest of this week, and I'll see you next week. This is Yaz Hurston. Peace out, Phoenix Soul Podcast.